Please like, subscribe, and be sure to click that bell button for regular and exciting indie film content and your chance to be the first to engage with the Liftoff Global Network of Film Festivals as we embark on launching the careers of the filmmakers of tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Hugh Brown with Liftoff Global Network. Welcome to today's stream. We are going to be going through the jury highlights for this year's Berlin Liftoff Film Festival. For those of you that follow the Liftoff Global Network regularly, you're probably aware that we just got back from our Berlin Festival. In Berlin, it's the first time we've had an out-of-country festival since pre-COVID. So as you can imagine, we're still reeling from the excitement that it was such a well-attended event. You know, I'll quickly shout out everyone that came along. Thanks so much for coming to support us, and thank you for voting during the live screenings as well. We're very, very excited. And it's really cool to be able to go through the films that have been doing quite well amongst our jury. These aren't necessarily the final winners of the festival, but these are just a selection of films from each of our categories that our jury have had some things to say about. We're just going to have a look at what exactly makes them so good. You know, what exactly are the jury highlighting that makes them so exceptional? So, yeah, let's get right into it. Claire's going to be in the chat room, so if you have any questions or want to shout out a specific film, then don't be afraid to type in the chat room. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notified of any future streams. Have a look at our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook. And just monitor the hub or our website, that's liftoff.network. Yeah, without further ado, let's start with our feature for our Berlin Jury highlights. We're going to be talking about Bohemian Avenger. I'm going to read an extract from the logline. Anton is a successful actor who suffers from being a bohemian. When Anton's drinking problem gets out of hand, he loses his work and his wife too. Anton covers up his failures towards his son, Tommy, with a lie. Anton pretends that he is a secret space agent. In reality, Anton is cast out of the art world, but Anton befriends a poet with a post office day job and a former ballet maestro who ended up as the owner of a junkyard. When Anton reaches the bottom, his friends help him to symbolically reform everything that has hurt him. This feature was directed by Lucia Klein-Svoboda from the Czech Republic. And she says in her director's statement that this is a fantastical story about the difficult fate of a misunderstood artist who is not interested in anyone, but fate thinks of something else. I'm quite a big fan of those films that very much portray the extremes that artists will go to excel in their specific field. I don't know what it is about that genre, but I like films like Whiplash and The Wrestler and Black Swan, let's say, where it just really drives home that very topical and very common theme of how far is too far and how much is too much. I think Bohemian Avenger definitely tackles this theme so well because this lead performance, it's such a tour de force, this very intense but also very likable, sympathetic character who he kind of sort of borders between an underdog and someone who has already made it. He's just I don't know, he's a difficult one to pin down because yeah, I fear that going into too much detail might give away some spoilers, but it's a very, very funny and poignant watch. It reminds me a bit of Birdman, actually, a weird psychedelic Czech Republic version of Birdman, let's put it that way. And I mean that in a positive sense, obviously. As I say, interesting and topical, and there's a lot of good visual effects work in there, actually, and it doesn't quite feel out of place, despite the fact the film is a drama, but it also utilizes these kinds of, you know, these crazy visuals to enhance this very surreal tone. It's interesting, really, really interesting. I had a quick look on the website, so this film is actually out in cinemas, so if there's anyone watching from the Czech Republic, you could probably go see it at your local theatre, you know, trying to keep movie theatres alive as much as we can and all that. There's lots of sponsors mentioned on the site as well. It's a really interesting avenue in terms of funding, is to be able to work with other brands to help support your project. Just a really cool way of going about things. Maybe something to look into. I'd love to hear from the director herself as to how she went about pitching this project to these different brands. I think, you know, the budget, considering the effects and everything, it was fairly small, but still utilized quite well. And yeah, that is Bohemian Avenger. We are going to go into our Judges Select short, which is called The Bond, directed by Andreas Ohlenberg from Germany. It's very serendipitous to be talking about this one in particular because, as you may or may not have seen by the title, this is a tribute to the eponymous spy franchise of the same name, which is obviously shot in our HQ at Pinewood Studios. So the logline reads, "How to become a special agent. 2 young applicants are going to prove that they are ready to fight with every weapon to get their dream job." The statement from Camcore Films, which is the production company that made it. This wasn't on the Film Freeway page, but I did a bit of digging, and I quite like this statement because it's... Well, I'll read it and I'll let you see. "We've always been big fans of the Bond universe ourselves, and we're keen to develop our own take on the story, thinking about how MI6 will choose their new 007 agent. We got caught in a funny situation between 2 young Bond candidates. The project was conceived within a few days and shot in Berlin in 1 day." I think that there, if you've seen this film and you didn't know that it was shot in 1 day, you're probably thinking, how did that only take 1 day? Because that's crazy. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent for this one. The reason that I love the Bond, it's the stage combat, the fight choreography. This is absolutely brilliant. It's just so well put together for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, just the profession of fight choreography itself. It's almost something that gets overlooked a little. It just requires so much thought and planning and health and safety issues as well, because obviously nobody wants to get hurt. And it's so nice to appreciate a film where that work is evident. You can really see it. And that brings us to the second reason why it's good, and why we can see it all. It's the editing. I have this problem with fight scenes in certain films where, excuse me, where to match the intensity of the fight, the cameras are, kind of shaky, kind of grainy, and there's just lots of editing. It's just cut to make it very, not static, just very fast paced. And I get what it's going for, but I think in doing that, you sacrifice the audience's ability to just absorb everything, which is a real shame because you don't want to lose any of that brilliant quality. Again, I get why the choice is made, but looking at films like, say, The Matrix or Old Boy, where you just have these very simple shots that are just able to capture every punch, every swing, every kick for the audience to just marvel and be in awe. And this is exactly what the Bond does. And it's only about 3 minutes long, and there's not a second wasted with this fighting, and I like simple but effective premises as well. There's a clear goal set up within 3 minutes, and there's a clear objective to be achieved within 3 minutes. And excuse me. As I say, very serendipitous to be talking about it here, but it's also in the wider context of Bond as a franchise. It's a really interesting, speculative look at who the next Bond may be it he or she or they, don't know. Just really, really a big topic of conversation. And yeah, honestly, if you get a minute, definitely check it out. So we're going to be looking at our new voice short next, and it's called Somewhere. It's directed by Jiahi Li from China. The logline reads, "This film is about 2 young people who have been through a rough patch and want to start over with a new life, but they are bound together by bad luck. In the face of the choice between evil and good, their inner struggles and changes eventually lead them to different paths of end." I'll follow up with a section from the director's statement. "Film is life and attitude. Life is full of prejudices and stereotypes all the time. People always judge a person's life based on how others see it, making one person with a prejudicial label. This film is a reflection of how group prejudice can affect one's choices and courage in facing life." Just a little bit of food for thought there, especially even more so after watching the film itself. This is a very interesting piece of work for a few reasons. Reason number 1 I'm going to highlight is these are non-professional actors being used, which helps enhance this great sense of realism. I almost don't see enough films doing that, trying to use non-professional actors to sort of ground the story a bit more, if that makes sense. And the cinematography and the color correction in this is really, really spectacular. It reminds me a lot of... There's a film by a director called Alan Clark called Elephant, which is a short, and it's a completely different end of the spectrum in terms of what the story's about, what the themes are. But he does this, both films do this thing where the composition of the actors, it's very distant from the camera, it's very static, in the case of Somewhere, it's all the shots are on a tripod, as far as I can remember, if my memory serves me right, there are no handheld shots or anything like that, and the actors are very spaced out, very distant. There's another excerpt from the director's statement, which I'm just going to read aloud, which kind of elaborates on on this. So fixed shot and symmetrical compositions are used to enhance the distance between the actors and the audience through their lifelike performances. Special shadows and competitions enrich the correspondence between scenes and characters and map the inner changes of the characters. So, a couple of interesting things there. So thing number one is the director is obviously really in tune with how to use the cinematic language to enhance the story and enhance the characters. And you know, these kinds of shots, I think the term picturesque or this shot is like a painting, it can be thrown around a lot these days, but in the case of Somewhere, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And this rewinds back to, I mentioned color correction, that kind of adds to that. It's just every shot does look like a painting. It's not even hyperbole to say that in the case of Somewhere. It is really well put together. And this is the other thing. So this was shot on a budget of $1,000 US, which when I read that, my head blew off a little bit, because that is a micro budget, and it's such a great use of that cash to make a project look this polished and good. I take my hat off to Jiahi Lee, the director. This is really excellent. I look forward to seeing more from this director. So finally, we're going to look at our trendsetter short, which is called Service Karl, directed by Thomas Bischkoff from Austria. The logline reads as such: Service Karl is an evil fictional reflection of Amaleo, in the face of its downfall, the observation of a world at a standstill, and of its characters that want to break out of it. The film follows Karl, a retiree and ex-thug, on his way through the bars and brothels of Vienna. Through documentary scenes, the viewers experience the standstill that rules this world. Besides, they observe the characters' lack of prospects and how they are struggling through the night under the burden of misery, well aware that there is no escape. In the midst of this standstill, Karl gets to realise the evanescence of things in his own morality. It's interesting little short. In the director's statement, which you can find in full on Film Freeway, the director, Thomas Bischkoff, talks a lot about the sense of the everyman and ordinary people, and location as well, which I think are the two key assets to this film. I was just thinking before we went live is how Vienna is such a specific location. I've never been, but I would really like to. But one of my favourites is The Third Man, as that's one of my dad's favourites. And again, Vienna in that, Vienna in general, it's so specific. And I really like how the aesthetic is brought to life, how this environment really is able to live and breathe. Location, I've said this on streams before, I'm pretty sure, that location has become a character in this sense. You know, that when I think of a film like that, then yeah, it's won me over. It has my full attention. I love the use of location. It's just a really cool pulpy noir aesthetic as well. I jokingly said that this is a Wes Anderson's dark noir twin, which and again, that's in a good way. Just really aesthetically interesting. I really like the performances in here and the characters. It's just, yeah, it's just interesting. And that is all the films that we have for today. So it looks like the chat room has been pretty active today. Thanks very much to Claire for keeping an eye on that. And thanks very much to everyone for tuning in. We will see you at the next stream. Take care now. Bye-bye.